Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily for May 30th, 2025. Coming up, Es Baraheni and I are going to talk about the Knicks being back. Bing bong, they're 3-2 going back to Indiana. Then Shakeia Taylor is going to join us to talk about what went wrong for the Pacers. Woo, buddy. Eastern Conference Finals, the Knicks got it done wire to wire. They did not make it hard. We're going back to Indy. The Knicks still trail 3-2 in the series, but they pick up a big win, 111-94. Man, huge game for the Knicks. They did not roll over, unlike the Timberwolves.
They did not, no. And Karl Anthony Towns did not roll over.
Yeah, how about that? Playing on a bum knee. And, I mean, you would not have noticed it from the way he performed. I mean, he was the best player on the court every single time he was out there.
Yeah, I thought he was electric, especially at like setting the tone early in this game, you know, especially in these type of elimination games. I mean, we just saw it with the Thunder and Timberwolves where it's like you could be out of the game in 12 minutes, depending on the energy and vibe you bring to the game. Right. The Knicks set the tone, like they played more physical. And I know some of that stuff sounds like a cliche, but if you listen to all the post-game pressers from basically everybody, from the Knicks side, from the Pacers side, they're all talking about physicality and just like setting the tone initially, right?
Well, you can see it. I mean, just like literally it came across the screen. I mean, and if you go back and look at the box score, the Pacers starters combined for 37 points. That shows me that they got punched in the mouth and never recovered. And credit to you, by the way, Es. I'm going to give you credit. You called this like, I don't know, 8 minutes into the game. You said, oh, this is over. It's a wrap. Indy doesn't have it tonight. They did look dead. They look like a team that was just trying to get back to Indy. Maybe they're, trying to boost the ticket sales or something, but it really, they just low energy night. Tyrese Halliburton did not show up, 2 for 7 from the field. And, look, we're going to talk about the Knicks defense in a second, but 2 for 7, that just unacceptable. We went through this a little bit with Anthony Edwards, where it was like, hey, sometimes you've got to be the guy to take the shot. But it wasn't like the playmaking was really there either. Guys weren't. It wasn't a great shooting night for them, but also it wasn't like he was generating looks either.
Yeah, I think with Hallie, the interesting thing was how much pressure he was seeing. And early on, like everywhere he went, he saw a body. You could see on a couple of possessions, even off ball, when the Pacers were trying to get him going off ball to get him open. They were just switching those actions, and it was hard for him to get an opening. And when you're forcing Hallie to be more aggressive than he likes to be as a scorer. Yes, he had that incredible game in game 4 where he went off. And I mean, obviously you guys talked about it, the 30-point triple-double with no turnovers, but that's not his MO consistently. His MO is to get people involved. And when he sees bodies like that, it's hard for him to get guys involved because he's being crowded constantly too. So I do think it's a mentality thing. That said, we've seen him go off. We've seen him be clutch in moments. He just needs to deliver that one more time for this team to get to the finals, right? Yeah.
I did think that some of the stuff they did early on with Pascal Siakam, when he was getting touches, they were getting good offense, but overall the Knicks really just stuffed them. I mean, at every single turn, nothing worked. Even the Obi Toppin minutes, which have provided a lot of juice for the Pacers. The Knicks handled it. And I think part of this, we got to chalk it up.
The Pacers tried stuff.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, like they tried Jarris Walker. They tried going for, obviously Bradley got hurt. They attempted to go for different lineups. I thought Jarris Walker was pretty good in his minutes generally, but it felt like the Pacers were the team that was searching in this one compared to the Knicks, who, as I'm sure we'll talk about, are now leaning on their rotation. You know, Landry Shamet, DeLon Wright playing good minutes. DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet are basically like constant positives over the last 3 games for the Knicks.
Plus 20 Landry combined Shamet in the last 3 games.
Chance in MSG. He got Chance, Landry Shamet. And that's just incredible to hear in game 5 of the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, I wouldn't have expected that to be the case, Yeah,
it is funny that we were ready down 3-1, we're ready to write off Tibbs and we're saying, hey, it's the same old Tibbs. same old problems. He gets to the bench too late, and then they buy themselves another chance here. I mean, again, 10 guys. I mean, they've got 10 guys that can play in this series. You mentioned Landry Shamet, DeLon Wright, Precious Achiuwa gave him big minutes. Again, it's that change of pace, which the Pacers have had with Obi Toppin, but the Knicks didn't have a guy like that. I just think having a faster big out there like Precious helped counteract that at times. And then Josh Hart came off the bench, and we've kind of hit on the fact that he's had a rough series. Had a great game off the bench, 12 points, 10 rebounds, and made some plays for them too.
This was Josh Hart's best game of the series, undoubtedly.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, in that fourth quarter, he was crashing the offensive glass. He was pushing in transition. He was making the plays. He was giving them a second effort on defense. That is the Josh Hart that the Knicks have known. And that player hasn't been there for them this series. I think he has really struggled defensively against Pascal Siakam. I mean, it's been a tough matchup for him to try and guard. But this was a great game from Hart. And the other thing about this, like Jalen Brunson only played 33 minutes. He ended up with 32 points, by the way. Incredible third quarter from Brunson, who had 15 in that third quarter. He only played 33 minutes, though. So now you're going deeper into your bench.
It's amazing. They did not. The Knicks did not look exhausted in the fourth quarter. Now, part of that was the Pacers, right? Like the Pacers played way slower than what we were used to seeing out of them. I mean, this was a different thing. And part of that is the Knicks were picking them up extremely high, which is something that the Knicks haven't done in this series. So the Pacers weren't able to get into their faster semi-transition half-court offense. But just by going into that bench, absolutely has given the Knicks a lifeline at the end of games. And this was as fresh as we've seen them look in the fourth quarter all year, maybe, much less the playoffs.
No, yeah, they looked incredibly fresh. And I guess like this is a testament to just going deeper into your rotation. We talked about depth and how important that is in the postseason. Like you're seeing that for the Knicks too, like just getting spot minutes. It's not like Landry Shamet and DeLon Wright are playing 20 minutes a game, but they're playing 10 and 14 minutes. And that is enough to give your stars some rest. I thought also, you held Mitchell Robinson to 20 minutes, which I think is sort of his sweet spot. Like, that's the amount of minutes you need to get for him to be at his best. And he was incredible in that third quarter, pressuring Miles Turner, forcing turnovers. The other thing is Indiana had 19 turnovers tonight. That is incredibly uncharacteristic of who they are generally as a team. That's a credit to the Knicks defense, the pressure that they were applying, like you said. And it made life really, really hard for Indiana tonight.
Yeah. Also, it was the first time for the entire playoffs that the Pacers didn't hit 100 points. They just The Knicks won in every single way you could. They shot better, they played better defense. They really just they owned Game 5. How do you feel like the Pacers need to counter in Game 6? I mean, is it just play better? I mean, it often is at this point in the series, or do you feel like the Knicks might have figured something out with them?
It was interesting to hear basically in postgame, everybody saying from at least the Pacers side saying like they had to match them physically. And that physicality was something that New York brought from the onset. You thought about like Karl Anthony Towns and his drives, what they were doing with Halliburton and basically switching the high pickup points, like you mentioned. The physicality is something Indiana now needs to bring to them. And obviously being at home, being in Indiana, the role players are going to play a little bit better. Aaron Nesmith was off tonight. That's going to be a huge game for him to respond. Andrew Nembhard has not had, I don't think he's had like the greatest of series. He's had a couple of good moments overall, but the last couple of games have been tough for him. So this is a big moment for your role players to answer and step up to the call, because like you're going home. This is an opportunity for them to close out the series. And by the way, Dave, if you don't close out the series, now the pressure is on you. You got to win in Game 6, because Game 7 in the Garden, and look, they've done it before. Indiana literally won a Game 7 in the Garden last year.
Sure.
But it's not the recipe you want. Down 3-1 to come back and go to MSG.
They had to break Triple H out
for Indiana if they lose that game.
For Halliburton, get him fired up. Something to watch for me for Game 6. Nesmith in Game 4 coming back from that ankle injury. I thought he looked great in Game 4. Game 5 didn't look nearly as good. Wasn't moving as well. That's something for me that I'm watching going forward. He's, it's hard to say the most important player for the Pacers because who isn't? But he has been pretty important as far as being able to guard Brunson and hit shots on the other end. Guys, stick around after the break. We'll have Shakeia Taylor here to talk about the Pacers side of this and whether or not they played hard enough. For listeners of the show, you guys probably are aware that me and S and Zena all chose Pacers in 6. So did Shakeia Taylor. She's here. She's covering the Pacers. Pacers have a chance to go home and close it out in 6 after what we can only describe as a disappointing performance in Game 5. Shakeia, those guys they didn't show up.
They came out completely flat. I mean, there was like no aggression. There was no force. There was nothing. The game got away from them pretty much right away. Yeah. In the beginning, I thought they weren't playing well, but they proved me right even more so as the game went on.
Yeah, I wonder about like just the effort to start the game and the physical. Like we were talking about the physicality, the tone that New York set. What were guys saying post game about kind of setting the tone early and how that was just off tonight from the Pacers side?
Tyrese Halliburton actually, as he typically does after a game like that, he took it all on himself. I didn't set the tone. I didn't set the pace. I wasn't aggressive. Pascal Siakam, same thing. Like everybody who we heard from tonight, we heard from Halliburton, Siakam, Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard. Everyone was saying the exact same thing: is we didn't come out with enough force. We didn't come out aggressively. We let them set the tone and they controlled it from the beginning, which obviously is a very accurate assessment of the game. Even Rick Carlisle, he gave credit to the Knicks. Like he, wasn't just putting it on the Pacers playing poorly, but the Knicks played well.
Yeah. 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 I mean, look, the Knicks defense, they changed a lot. They started picking up Halliburton much earlier, trying to force the ball out of his hands. They really just, they continuously punched at the Pacers when they were trying to get into things. And it just felt like they couldn't get a rhythm all night. The starters, especially, it was their worst game of the playoffs for sure. It's the worst game I can remember since like January, when this group got together. Was there anything that they pointed to that the Knicks did in particular that threw them off guard, or was it just an off night in their opinion?
Halliburton actually said that, that the basics as far as what the Knicks have been doing was still there. They obviously didn't want to give too much credit to the Knicks for keeping them out of the game. But I mean, the Knicks defensively, as you already said, never let the Pacers get in rhythm. None of the starters did really well. In fact, the highest scorer, for the Pacers was Benedict Mathurin, who came off the bench. Yeah, that is a huge deal. Typically, their depth is always a positive, but when the starters cannot get going, the depth doesn't really matter that much.
Yeah, I'm looking at this box score right now, and like they obviously as a team had 19 turnovers, but it was basically every starter other than Tyrese Halliburton had multiple turnovers in this game. Miles Turner had 4 turnovers. Siakam had 3, he had 2, and then Andrew Nembhard had 3. Taking care of the ball is a very important characteristic for this Pacers team. Do you think that was something more about Indy and their, I guess, focus, if you want to call it, heading into this game, or was that, crediting the Knicks with what they did defensively?
I credit the Knicks. Like the Knicks played incredibly well tonight. And it's very hard to win a closeout game. It's even harder to win a closeout game in Madison Square Garden.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like you got the energy of the crowd behind the Knicks. And the crowd was into it from the beginning of the game. I don't think mentally, it looked like the Pacers were playing, the way they normally do. And they let the Knicks dominate the pace of that game completely. Halliburton was like, oh, I didn't get downhill, but I don't even know if the Knicks were really giving too much space for any of that. Yeah.
It's more like, honestly, the Knicks made him run uphill. That's what it looked like, right? So instead of him being able to get out and transition, and credit to the Knicks too, the Pacers like to run on makes. The Knicks were getting back on makes. They weren't falling down as much as on layups and seeking the foul calls and stuff. So they were actually able to get back, set the defense. But this is what we expected the Knicks to defend like when they got all their people together. It was not like we knew that this was on the table for them. It's more about how do you hold up, with Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns out there. I actually think, again, in this game, the low energy aspect for the Pacers showed in the fact that they just weren't as aggressive attacking Brunson, attacking Karl-Anthony Towns as they have been in the rest of the series. Yeah. I mean, usually those guys are put in. Fred Katz gave the stats, like 30 actions a night, pick and roll actions. It didn't feel that way to the eye test. I haven't seen the numbers on it, but just felt like, overall, this was a game that, and they'll never admit this, but they played like they were just fine with losing it and going home and doing it in 6. And Shakeia, I think they were just trying to make us look good.
I mean, maybe they were, maybe they weren't. I just know that it felt, at least, in the arena, that the Pacers weren't their usual pesky, speedy selves. I'm so used to seeing them flying around the court, moving very, very fast. And that wasn't happening. TJ McConnell, who I love to point out is really aggravating if you're playing against him, and that's to his credit. That wasn't happening tonight. I think Aaron Nesmith's ankle might be a bit of an issue, and cause him to slow down a little bit. Because, every time you get on a plane, that ankle's going to swell a little bit. It just was not clicking for the Pacers at all. No matter, what Rick Carlisle was trying to do as far as lineups. Jarris Walker was in the game. In fact, when he hit his 3-pointer, I think the entire section next to me said, "Who is that?" at the exact same time. Like, to Rick Carlisle's credit, he was definitely trying anything and everything to kind of motivate these guys to pick up the pace, to be more aggressive, and it just wasn't happening. I mean, but again, credit to the Knicks.
Yeah, credit to the Knicks. And you know what? I know we all said Pacers in 6. I feel like this series has been incredible, and it would be a shame if it didn't go 7. You know what I mean? Shakeia, I guess the history of like Knicks Pacers and I guess obviously the historic rivalry that they have, but also this sort of budding rivalry that they've developed between Halliburton and Brunson. How has that been to watch live through the last 5 games, kind of develop the chemistry and the battle, the beef? It can't be a beef, but like it's it's a rivalry brewing between these two teams. Yeah.
You know what? I would say, first of all, it's been so much fun. The energy in both arenas has been incredible. Yeah. The energy from both teams, with the exception, obviously, of the Pacers tonight, has been incredible. It's been hard fought. These games have been close, obviously not counting tonight. They've been close. There's been a ton of, it's like on the court, you can tell, right? Like everybody wants it. But off the court, in their post-game interviews, they clearly respect one another.
100%.
And that is, I think, what's making it even cooler, is these guys are like, hey, that guy is amazing. I gotta beat him. We have to beat them. Especially, there's a lot of love between Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton that I think is just really dope to see, considering the trolling that happens on the court. It's been so much fun. I think this series is definitely going to be one that we're talking about next year. As far as it going 7, if you're the Pacers, you don't want that. That cannot happen. I think they have to absolutely win at home, game 6, close it out, because
there's pressure on them now, right? Yeah.
pressure's on them. They need to close the door. They need to go out and they need to dominate, from the opening tip of the game. Because if they don't, I don't know that they come back to Madison Square Garden and make it happen. I really don't. Like, I know that it's the Knicks who are on the brink of elimination, but it feels very much so like Game 6 could put the Pacers, in that very tough spot.
Precarious
as much
position.
as I would love for us to all be right, God, it feels like it's just going to go 7. Something about this Knicks team where they just don't make anything easy. And I just feel like it's going to go 7. So Shakeia, maybe we'll talk to you after Game 7 next week. We'll see how it goes. That's going to do it for the show. Go and read Shakeia over at The Athletic. She's been doing a great job covering the Pacers, pinch hitting there. And honestly, like, looking forward to what you write as we head into the finals if the Pacers make it there. I don't want to jinx it either way. I don't know if you want more work or not. Thank you very much, Shakeia, for being on the show. Thanks to Es Baraheni. I'm Dave DuFour. This has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.